so excited for you guys all to meet her. It's Sarah D'Angelo.
Yay! So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for everybody to get to know you and just see what you're all about.
Yes, likewise. We're going to have a juicy conversation today for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So who are you and who do you help?
Yes, great question. So as Hisan said, my name is Sarah D'Angelo, and I am a business mentor, business coach. It's so funny to be asked that question sometimes, because when I say I'm a business coach, it's really like there's so much more that I do than just business. But really who I help is women who are ready to level up in their wealth and their prosperity and start a business that really turns them on and a life that turns them on overall. And one of my biggest missions is to have more money in the hands of conscious women who are really going to do some good work with it. So as a business coach, we obviously focus a lot on business, sales, marketing, branding, all of that stuff, right? But underneath all of that is where the real work is to starting a business. So inner child healing, manifestation, money mindset, wealth embodiment, just a bunch of healing work that to really transcend them into the next level of themselves so they can actually start to attract the people into their business who they're ready to serve. So
yeah,
high level.
Absolutely. So what inspired you to become your own boss?
Yeah. So some backstory. I worked in corporate and I was like super committed to the corporate world since I was 19 years old. Didn't go to college. I just really hustled my way up the corporate ladder. And the last year, it was about 5 to 6 years. The last year, I just had this little intuitive nudge that there had to be more to life, because I would go to work every single day miserable, super unhappy, incredibly unhealthy. And I knew that that wasn't what my life was meant to be like. So after a pretty crazy breakup, right? I feel like breakups are like catalysts to such a spiritual awakening. After a pretty intense breakup, I finally just listened to that voice that was inside my head telling me to leave. And I didn't really have any intentions on being my own boss. I really just wanted to take a year off to travel and live, because I had never really done that. And I was in my mid-20s. So I finally just listened, quit my job, moved, traveled. And through that, I was introduced to holistic health coaching, mindset coaching, and was pretty successful at doing that fairly quickly. So then I transitioned more into business coaching and feminine leadership.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Where I know you've been an online business coach for about a year now, or two, has it?
Yeah, about 2 years,
Wow,
almost two and
about
a
2
half,
years.
actually.
Yeah, since the pandemic, right?
Yep,
That,
exactly.
that's amazing. Can you take us through like that journey of how
Yeah.
you
Oh, yes. So yeah, when I first started my business, I really had zero clue what I was doing. like I said, I really just wanted to travel and be free and live. And so as I started my coaching business, I actually didn't have a single client for 6 months. I had one client that paid me $350 and I super overgave, right? And then I also had some pro bono clients, but I was not generating any income, any cash. And I started to really question if this was a dream that I wasn't cut out for. And I had to get 2 part-time jobs. And my ego really took a blow, because I went from having this great success and being a leader in my corporate world to quitting and not really have anything going for me. And I was really, really scared and lost and confused. But something bigger than me kept just telling me, keep going, keep going, keep going. You're destined for this. I just had this huge nudge. So I kept moving forward. I kept I kept trusting the signs and following the breadcrumbs. And eventually I realized what my power was inside of my business, which was actually just being myself and allowing that to be the foundation of my business and not trying to be someone who I wasn't. And then things just kind of took off from there. And in 2020, I had an incredible year, started working with clients. 2021, I had an epic year. I reached 6 figures in 9 months. I helped over 100 people, and it has just unfolded beautifully since then.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's like so pertinent to so many people listening on this podcast, but also myself, because I just started my business coaching business in 2021. So I'm really excited. This is like new territory for me. And
Totally.
I'm really excited for the journey. And I've just been working with one-on-one clients and building my experience. So what would you say is like your 2 greatest tips for like new coaches starting out on social, on how to grow their business?
On how to grow their business. Well, first of all, one of my go-to sayings is, my truth will make me millions. And so I guess that would be the first piece of advice. Like, speak your truth, trust yourself. Like, there's no reason to doubt those downloads or to doubt your intuition. Yeah, your truth will make you millions. That's the first one. And then the second one would be to stay open. And this is so hard for a lot of beginner entrepreneurs because they're really so much in this mindset of like, I need to get to that 5K month, that 10K month, that 15K month, whatever their desired outcome is in this period of time, that they are so contracted in their mission. Like, they forget why they even started their business because they're so focused on the money milestones. And if they don't reach it in their desired period of time, they contract, they close up, they, feel defeated, they get discouraged, they think I'm not enough. And every time I see this happen in one of my clients, my first piece of advice would be like, stay open and remember that nothing outside of you, like the money milestone, that's not gonna make you feel enough. That's not going to make you feel fulfilled. This is one of like the biggest misconceptions I see in the coaching industry, because we talk a lot about the money milestones, which I'm so fucking here for, by the way. Like, I talk about mine all of the time because I think they're incredible and it's showing people what's possible. But when you attach your worth to that milestone, you close up and you're back in that lack mentality and that lack embodiment. But when you stay open to the possibility of your worth and of your potential and of what's possible and your destiny and all of that, you no longer realize that like that money milestone is just a byproduct of you being in your truth. And I'll share a little story around that too, because I think it's important. And I always like to tell my clients this. Back in September, I had one of my highest paying months at the time. It was a $41,000 month. And I was deeply in my lack. And I still felt it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And your desire for more is not sustainable. You have to learn how to sustain that enoughness and that worth and that love and that fulfillment and that success internally. And then you can actually experience the abundance of those things externally. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. And that makes so much sense. And it leads me to my next kind of question for you. My experience with you has been, from coaching with you, has just been like this shift, right, of energy. So when I coach with you and I coach with other people, it's very, very different. So I think that many people have this idea of coaching as it being more consulting and tangible things, which are, very valuable. And
Absolutely.
before I met you and before I met Tiffany, I was all about the tangible. I was all about the practical and the analytical and the strategies. And that was what was important to me, or what I thought was important to me on
Yeah.
how I would be successful as a business coach. And then I realized that when it comes to being really successful and embodying your business and becoming abundant,
Mm,
those things take a back seat to the energetics that are at play.
mm,
So I used to think with things like that, it was like very woo, you know? And I was like, I used to like kind of laugh at it, like, oh, that's,
totally.
you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that is tangible, and it's kind of like, it's hard to understand it. But when you work in this frequency of high vibrations and energy, the abundance that you're looking for is actually, you're now playing in that field. And
Yeah.
that is what makes everything possible. So that's what makes a 40K month possible. That's what makes feeling at peace with a 40K month possible. So my next question to you is, what do you think is like the main difference between coaches on Instagram and social media who practice law of attraction and do a lot of energy coaching versus like everyone else?
Yeah, this is such a powerful question. And I want to preface my answer by saying, like, there's no right or wrong way. Um, Everyone has their own way of doing things, and it's beautiful and perfect and right, you know. Um, my strategy is probably different from your strategy, and they both work because they're ours, right? And so I think when it comes to that whole ideology of like, what is the best strategy? That's the biggest difference. For me, there isn't one. For me, your soul, your leadership, your voice, your energy, your activation, like all of those things are the strategy. Because I have tried, and I'm like always like to relate it back to my story, right? I have done hundreds of different strategies. And it wasn't about which one worked and which one didn't. It was about which one did I feel good in. Whichever one I felt good in, that was the right strategy. And that's just being in alignment, right? Like what feels aligned for you. And once you figure out what feels aligned for you, then everything else gets to be in more flow, right? It doesn't have to come from force. I always say create from force, or create from source, not from force, right? And that's like create when you're in alignment. And the coaches who do teach strategy and like the step-by-step blueprint to getting a 5K month, I used to be one of those coaches. There's nothing wrong or bad about them, right? You've probably worked with them yourselves. Like you have
I
gotten
have.
what you, yeah, like you got what you needed out of them in that period of time. And then you realize that there's more there, right? Because like you can have a perfect strategy, but when the clients come, right, when they're like, hey, how can I work with you? Do you actually receive them? Do you feel safe to receive them? Do you feel excited to like raise your pricing? Do you feel fulfilled in receiving them? Like there's so much more work internally that needs to happen, because you can establish a strategy in 3 days. You can establish a strategy in 3 days. The strategy will never work if you're not feeling abundant, secure, if you're not embodied in a higher frequency, if you're not feeling irresistible, which is like a word that I like to play with a lot, and the frequency I play in a lot. If your inner child isn't feeling safe, right? The strategy just won't work no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah. I remember like before meeting you and coaching myself, I bought this like really expensive business coaching program, and it was like more of the tangible, the strategies, the practical stuff, which is good. It's really, great stuff. but I literally never finished it because then I met you and Tiffany, and the energetic stuff came in to my life, and I was